New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is giving wealthy property owners more time to comply with a controversial new tax on second homes in the city, following a backlash over its botched rollout. Welcome back to the States. I'm Greg Bishop. Well, the Mamdani administration announced over the weekend that it's giving about 17,000 residents who may owe that 4% surcharge on 1 to 3 family second homes valued at over $5 million, and co-ops and condos valued at $1 million until September 18th to file an appeal with the city for an exemption. Now, the previous deadline was set for late August, according to the Mamdani administration. Here he is yesterday.
And the point of this period of time is precisely so that New Yorkers, the 17,000 homeowners who received the "you may be subject to" letters, have all the information they need and also have the time to be able to inquire with any questions as well as appeal any assessment of their property as being one that would receive the surcharge. Again, this is a surcharge for secondary homes of non-resident New Yorkers that are worth more than $5 million. We've also made the decision to hire 24 additional civil servants across multiple city agencies precisely to be engaging with New Yorkers on this question. Again, if a New Yorker does not appeal this by September 18th, they still have until March to appeal this to the tax commission before this tax is actually levied.
Now, Mamdani said the new tax, which is expected to drum up $500 million in annual revenue, it'll force part-time New Yorkers to pay their fair share of the city's operating costs. But the Democratic Socialist has been criticized for a confusing rollout of the new tax, including the release of a database of affluent property owners who could be subject to it, which critics say exposes them to harassment and threats. Now, the list required by the new law includes their names, addresses, and other details. And that number of the individuals impacted by this tax, it could grow.
The assessment of 17,000 properties potentially being levied with this surcharge, that is the maximum number of properties. And now the process is on engaging with New Yorkers to see whether those who filed their property in a trust or in an LLC are in fact also primary residence holders of that same property. We have been engaging with a number of New Yorkers. We can have the team follow up with you with the exact number already, just in the time since that first letter was sent. And that engagement will continue through September 18th with the Department of Finance. And again, if a New Yorker does not engage after that point, they can still appeal to the tax commission until March.
Now, the city's Department of Finance, they also muddied the waters a bit by including 900,000 properties on the list without explaining that many of them would not be subject to this new tax. Now, the Real Estate Board of New York, which opposes the tax, said the annual levy will weaken New York City's economy and accelerate an exodus of wealthy households to lower tax states. And while looking to increase the cost of some homeowners to just have a property in New York City, Mamdani was holding an event yesterday where he was looking to address housing affordability.
I think first and foremost, we know that the preeminent crisis in New York City is that of the housing crisis. And we know that the homelessness crisis is one face of that. And what makes today so exciting is that we are building not only housing that currently homeless New Yorkers, as well as those at risk of homelessness, can live in, but that we're accompanying that housing with the kind of services that make it possible for those New Yorkers to transform their own lives. And we are doing this alongside an allocation of more than $5 million in the recent adopted budget, where we are putting money towards a cross-agency task force that is looking to bring vacant supportive housing units online quicker so that we can ensure that we are meeting New Yorkers' needs as quickly as we can.
Now, part of his announcement yesterday at that facility included discussion about subsidizing services for people living in that subsidized housing.
Services including case management, financial literacy classes, paid work training, legal referrals, and more. The other 38 homes will also be rent stabilized and truly affordable for working New Yorkers, with one apartment designated for a live-in super. All residents will have access to free broadband internet across the building, as well as on-site laundry, a fitness center, and community spaces. This project is just one example of our broader efforts to rewrite the relationship between City Hall and the people of the Bronx. Through our historic housing plan, block by block, we are taking a targeted approach to the lasting housing inequities that disproportionately affect those in this borough, holding bad landlords accountable and supporting organized tenants along the way.
But it wasn't just the issues of costs that raised questions yesterday for Mamdani. There were also ongoing concerns about crime in parts of New York City.
I think first and foremost, so long as there is crime in the Bronx and there is crime in New York City, it means that there is work for us to do. And we can acknowledge and appreciate the incredible work of the men and women of the NYPD in reducing crime, and also know that there is still so much more work to be done. And I will tell you, as someone who went to see Kai's body with his family at that viewing, I can never look at the heartbreak that that family is going through and say that the work that we have done is enough. There is always more work to be done, and there always will be more work to be done until every 12-year-old can ride a bike to a bodega and ensure that they're just enjoying summer as every New Yorker has the right to.
Meanwhile, New York's push to unmask federal immigration enforcement agents, it's on hold after a federal judge blocked the provisions of a newly minted state law that restricts local cooperation with immigration crackdowns. In that filing, in the ruling on Monday, a U.S. District Court judge said the Constitution's Supremacy Clause does not permit New York State to regulate federal law enforcement activities, and approved a preliminary injunction blocking New York from enforcing that masking ban. But the Center Square contributor Chris Wade reports that the judge also denied the federal government's request to block New York's ban on 287G agreements between ICE and local law enforcement agencies while the legal challenge plays out in court. New York Governor Kathy Hochul signed the Local Cops, Local Crimes Act in May that bans state and local law enforcement agencies from helping the federal government in civil immigration enforcement cases and bans ICE agents from wearing masks during operations. In June, the Department of Justice filed their lawsuit against New York State, challenging the constitutionality of the new law, which lawyers for the DOJ said would make ICE agents and other federal authorities subject to criminal penalties for wearing masks to protect their identities. New York responded by filing a counter lawsuit seeking to uphold those new restrictions on immigration enforcement. And be sure to get the latest at thecentersquare.com by signing up for the newsletter free at the Center Square.